Yo, welcome back. Welcome back to the Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast. We love sharing our fantasy football knowledge and our fantasy football takes with you, our listeners. Thank you so much for stopping in. Your hosts, Matt, Shed, Olu, and Will. We love being with you guys. Guys, here we are again. What is this? Episode 4 now. Our fifth recording,
That's
episode
right.
4. What are you guys thinking? How you liking it?
Been great.
Loving it.
Yeah.
We here.
What I'm thinking, Matt, is do you want to explain to our YouTube viewers this disgrace that is on your head right now?
To our YouTube viewers, yes, I am wearing my New York Football Giants helmet. Let me tell you something. My
Ouch.
fanhood, I am not a redraft fan. I am not a bandwagon fan. I'm a New York Football Giants fan. They are dreadful. They're not a bad football team. They're god-awful. But, you know, I still rock with them.
Worse than bad.
I respect that.
They're worse than bad. But I still rock with them. You know, I've been a Giants fan my whole life. And this is typical. This is what they do. It's always great in the offseason. They make additions. They retain the coaching staff. On paper, they look better, but their product is worse. Doesn't make sense? But here I am. And then I'll come back every Sunday and watch them. But we have a great show for you guys today. Always, we got to start off with our injury roundup. We hate that that's the way we have to start, but it's football. Part of the game. Next man up. After that, we're going to go to Did You See What He Did? We're going to talk about our top performers from week 4. After that, we've got to hit, whoa, slow down. We can't overreact about certain guys. Then looking ahead, we're going to go to week 5, matchups to exploit and matchups to avoid. We hope our football knowledge helps you. After that, we're going to go into a little debate time yet again. This time, we're going to talk about the biggest draft disappointments, okay? We are now on to week 5 of fantasy football. Many of us were so excited when we drafted our fantasy football teams. Now we are a few weeks in, and many of us aren't as excited because there were draft disappointments. We're going to give you some of the biggest draft disappointments thus far and debate who was probably the biggest bust up to this point. And then after that, our favorite thing, the single game mock draft. But with that said, why don't we go to our injury roundup, Will?
Okay, so there are a few things we want to keep track of after week 4. One of them is Pat Freiermuth. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks for the Steelers. So what that affects for you as a fantasy football manager is if you have him as your tight end, obviously you drafted him as your tight end 1, you're probably going to have to go to waivers to find somebody. And I'll just slip this one in. You may want to go after Jonnu Smith. Okay, he is one of the top targeted receiving options for the Falcons. It is infuriating how he is, 4 times ahead of Kyle Pitts, but he might be your guy while Freiermuth is out.
It's the secret of fantasy right now.
Oh my gosh, it is. Yeah, nothing makes any sense ever in fantasy football. So there we go. For the Ravens, you want to keep track of OBJ and Rashad Bateman's injuries. If they miss another week, that's going to mean more targets for Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews. Then we also have T. Higgins with the hip and Javonte Williams with the hip. It looks like they're day-to-day at best, week-to-week at worst. So just watch, keep track of those. And then another thing that's important to note is we have a few guys coming back that will dramatically swing the makeup of a lot of people's rosters. So Jonathan Taylor, all indications are that this man is finally going to make his debut. So if you were riding the Zach Moss wave, you probably should have sold him after week 3. It's too late now. He's not going to have value going forward. Taylor, time to put him in your lineup. Austin Eckler is probably coming back, so Joshua Kelly, goodbye. Eckler is going to be starting, get him back in. And it looks like Cooper Kupp, the Rams say he's 80 to 90% healthy. The hamstring's looking okay. So what is that going to mean for Puka? What is that going to mean even for Kyron Williams getting targets out of the backfield? Tyler Higbee, those guys may take a little bit of a hit to their stock. And, of course, if you've been stashing Cooper Kupp, you finally get to cash in on that investment. That's our injury roundup after week 4.
Fellas, let's take a pause for a minute. Before we go into Did You See What He Did? I think many people are wondering what they do now with Puka Nacua.
That's right.
Can Puka Nacua maintain this level of production? He's on a record pace, okay?
Yes.
Let's
Yes,
just
he
get
is.
that out the way. He's on a record pace to surpass Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, OBJ, Anquan Bolden when he was, he is on
Right.
record pace here as a rookie. Targets, catches, yards.
Right.
But here comes Cooper Kupp, Mr. Triple Crown. What are you guys' thoughts here on Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp? Yeah, go for it, guys.
So, okay, I'll start because he's my guy on my dynasty team, right? So I am
Boo.
sold on I am sold, and you're right, he is record pace, what they say, like almost 40 receptions, 500 yards, the most ever by like a rookie or within his first 4 games. Yes, I am sold because Cup plays primarily in the slot. Puka Nacua can play on the outside. The Rams pass as much as anybody in the league. They're typically 3 wide receivers. So I mean, and he's proven himself. If anybody takes a hit, it's probably Atwell, maybe Higbee. But I am still confident Puka Nacua is the future. And do we know long term that Cooper Kupp's going to be there? Like he's there
No.
now. He has a hamstring injury, right? So like I think the value of Puka Nacua is still up because we don't know the long term result for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. What do you think, Olu?
I think one key point I want to make is I think we need to start looking at Matt Stafford because first you have Calvin Johnson who broke a lot of records playing with Matt Stafford. We had Cooper Kupp broke a lot of records. Now we have Cooper Nacua, and you're thinking, man, there's something about Matt Stafford. I know I don't like to give him
Right.
as much credit, but at the same time, I gotta acknowledge like it's something special about when you play with him. With that said, I think with Cooper Cup coming to the lineup, it's going to affect Puka Nacua. The reason why I said so is even the way my Stafford plays, he tends to go to zero, one guy. One guy is this guy, and that's the guy that will go off. So I've never seen him have 2 receivers go off in his career. So that's so, and I know he has better. I mean, he does have chemistry with Puka Nacua, but he has a lot of inbuilt chemistry with Cooper Cup. So if he zeroes in a Cooper Cup, that will absolutely affect Puka Nacua.
I think we all know the thing that's special about him is that he went to the illustrious University of Georgia. I think that's what we can all agree
Oh
about
my
here.
gosh.
Quarterback you, huh?
Hey, I gotta find my wins somehow. Will, what do you think, man?
I do think Puka is going to be fine. He's not going to maintain this pace. That's impossible. He's 500 yards through 4 games. Absolutely not. But in Sean McVay's system, we have seen multiple receivers be startable in fantasy. Back when they had Kupp, Woods, and Brandon Cooks, all
And
3 of those
Cooks, yep.
guys were
That's true.
startable in fantasy leagues. And so Stafford does tend to hone in on one receiver, but I think the system is built to support multiple receivers because even Tutu Atwell has been a startable asset through these first 4 weeks. So even if Puka takes a little bit of a hit, he's still going to be fine. And I think because of what Shed alluded to, Puka plays on the outside, Kupp is more in the slot. Even 2 years ago during the Super Bowl run, OBJ came in and he started
Right,
putting up numbers quickly.
right.
So Puka's not going to keep up this pace, obviously, but you still want him in your lineup, no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was even trying to go back to think about Matt Stafford throughout his career, right? And I think you're right about the Super Bowl run. Okay, you had Cup. They brought in OBJ. The guy was by the playoffs. He was gonna be the Super Bowl MVP if he
He
didn't
Yes.
was.
if he didn't tear
Yep.
his ACL. But then I was thinking about Matt Stafford in Detroit. The guy made Kenny Galladay a fantasy asset. But I was trying to think
Golden Tate.
that's where I was going. Golden Tate,
Okay.
Marvin Jones, and these guys were on the rosters at the same time,
It's true.
and he made them I think they could do it. I think you could play both of these guys with confidence. With confidence. So, anyways, let's move forward. Did you see what he did? Let's talk about some highlights from week 4. Let's each highlight one of our favorite players or a guy who exceeded production from this past week. Shed, start us off.
All right, so you cannot talk about this topic without talking about CMC. The man is amazing.
Unreal.
He is the heart and soul of the 49ers. Did you know that there's been 13 straight games where he's had a TD, including the playoffs, and he actually broke Jerry Rice's franchise record for most consecutive games with a touchdown. When you break anything of Jerry Rice, that's extraordinary.
Right.
He had last week he had 27 touches, 177 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaging 5.3 yards per carry and more than 10 yards per reception. This guy is on a Hall of Fame trajectory. The last running back to make a Hall of Famer was Adrian Peterson, or at least we're pretty much sure that he'll be a Hall of Famer, right? The last player before that to actually enter the Hall of Fame was Adrian James in 2017, but
EJ.
he was done playing in 2009. So it's been 14 years since the last running back was elected to the Hall of Fame. My point being, CMC is on a Hall of Fame track. He's a Hall of Famer, and the man can just play.
Yep. CMC. I feel like CMC's that guy that many people are scared to draft him because they're like, oh, the injury.
Injuries, yes.
But then you look at his production, and if you passed up on Christian McCaffrey, you're like, what the heck was I thinking? Because the guy can ball. PPR, non-PPR,
right.
It doesn't matter. He is balling.
The injury thing, so, okay, every running back is injury prone. That's just, it's a reality of the position. Any running back you draft in fantasy is going to have a risk of injury. It is by far the most injured skill position. So I've never really fallen for that argument with McCaffrey, or, even Eckler has had injury concerns over the years, but these guys are still going to win you, 14, 15 weeks out of the season. So it's unbelievable what he's doing.
My guess is if you have McCaffrey on your team, you're probably one of the top teams in your redraft league right now because the guy's getting points.
I can attest to that for sure.
Why don't you go ahead, Olu? Who's your guy? Did you see him?
Okay, so did you see him? My guy is AJ Brown. AJ Brown had an amazing game. Okay, he started the season a little rocky, so much that he was having a little sideline fight with his quarterback Jalen Hurts, but he's really bounced back in a big way. He had 13 targets and caught 9 of them, and he went for 175 yards.
Wow.
With 19.4 yards per reception with 2 touchdowns. He had a heck of a day, quite busy and quite productive. So he had a really, really big game Sunday. So I would put him up there, someone that did you see that moment for him? So I'm happy for him is finding stride again, and they're trying to find a rhythm.
I heard right after the game, he got asked to do a random drug test.
Oh, I saw that.
Right. Yeah. The guy gets 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they're like, "Oh, we need you to pee in this cup." Like, what?
He went off.
He went off, dude. He's good.
Yeah.
Will, who do you have, man? Who do you want to highlight?
My guy, did you see what Stephon Diggs did against the Miami Dolphins?
So much more on paper.
With only 6 receptions, he put up 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Do we understand what that means? He averaged 20 yards per reception, and he scored a touchdown on every 2 receptions he made. And if y'all watched the game or the highlights, he had that one sideline catch where 2 Dolphins were there to tackle him. I don't know what happened. I
that
really
Joker
don't.
Looked like me.
It was dumbfounding what the corner and safety were trying to do, but Diggs just slipped away, ran down the sideline. That's what he can do week in and week out with Josh Allen. He's capable of weeks like this at any moment because Josh Allen looks to him almost every play. They don't distribute. If you drafted other Bills receivers, I'm sorry, it's not happening for you. Did you see what Stephon Diggs did? He is on a tear this year through 4 weeks.
Yeah. Can I say something about that?
Please.
Not just the Buffalo offense is. I didn't see this coming. I mean, we know they have Stephon Diggs. We know they have everybody, but now they unlocked the 2 tight ends, and they're playing power ball, and they're just bullying everybody. And I'm looking at it like, wow, this is, and even the running back, James Cook, he got bigger and faster. And then you
Dude,
look at
Yeah.
him like, this is a power team. Good luck to anybody trying to challenge them.
They
Yeah,
finally
James Cook.
have a running game. Finally.
right. And it's because James Cook went to the illustrious University of Georgia. That's
Oh
why,
my gosh.
guys. Let's just. I gotta find my W's. I gotta find my W's.
Yes, they lost Travis. White. They lost the cornerback, but they have
Yeah.
Von Miller coming back. Man, that's
Oh my gosh.
embarrassing riches. Gosh.
Yeah, that team's gonna be something.
Yeah.
You know, my guy I want to highlight. Did you see what he did? This isn't a guy. He didn't come out with the flashiest of plays, but if you had him in your lineup, more than likely you won your week, and that's my man David Montgomery. Okay, welcome back, David Montgomery.
He's
Okay,
back.
many of people might have been hesitant to start him because he was coming back from injury, but if you put him in your roster, you were awarded with 31 carries, 121 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Gosh.
My goodness. So here's the thing. Again, it's not about flashy plays with David Montgomery, but look what you got. So here's the thing that I want to highlight about it. This is so good. I think we've all kind of just accepted that the Detroit Lions offense is pretty good. They could put points on the board. We want to trash them all the time because they're the Lions and they're not successful and they'll find a way to let their fan base down because that's what they do. But David Montgomery had 31 carries for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let me tell you something. Here's what's so crazy. So many people were high on Jahmyr Gibbs coming into the season. Jahmyr Gibbs, because he's fast. What did I tell our listeners all the time? You've got to look at these people's size. You've got to look at their size. You've got to look at their BMI. Jahmyr Gibbs, he's very talented. He is very talented. I'm not saying the guy's not talented. He is better for football than he probably is for fantasy. And David Montgomery had 53 snaps to Jahmyr Gibbs' 28. He had 71% of the backfield snaps. That says something. They are committed to using David Montgomery. And hey, some might say it's going to be the Jamal Williams role. I don't know about that. Jamal Williams scored 17 touchdowns.
He led the league in touchdowns. Rushing touchdowns.
Right. I think it was 17 touchdowns.
It was.
David Montgomery, look, if someone's getting the ball 31 times a game, not a game, but he got the ball 31 times, they're committed to using him. They paid the man to play. They're gonna play him. Did you see what he did? David Montgomery, I'm going to continue to start him. If you didn't start him, you already feel bad for yourself, so I'm not going to beat you up. I started him in one of my leagues, not in the other one. But David Montgomery, that's my guy. Shed, go. What do you want to say, Shed?
It's just he's killing me because I have Jahmyr Gibbs, right? I was excited about Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
He had, what was it, the first game? He had an explosive couple plays here and there, got me hyped, got me excited. I was really excited for this guy, but then, they just keep feeding Montgomery, and I don't know, man. I don't think this year is Gibbs' year for as far as a fantasy point of view, but I think he is the future because Montgomery is good, but how long can they have him for, right? So eventually. But then my fear also is that what if they then draft another big boulder guy, right, in order to take touches from Gibbs? But so go ahead.
I have a Gibbs take, but I'm gonna save it for later.
Yeah,
I have some Gibbs time.
I'll share that. This is the last thing I'll say on Montgomery. We got to move on, but Montgomery led the week in running back carries. He had 32. Kyron Williams was second with 25.
Right.
In fantasy football. You need to chase volume. Let's just be honest. You've got to chase volume. And the man had 32 rushes and then 2 catches on top of that. And so I think with Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's doing exactly what they drafted him to do.
Right.
Here's the thing, guys. Listen, these NFL teams do not care about your fantasy football team. If they are winning, they don't care how they win.
Ask the Atlanta Falcons about Kyle Pitts. Ask them. Right. They don't care.
They don't care about your fantasy football team. So if Jahmyr Gibbs only touches the ball 10 times a game and they're winning, then that's how they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs.
I think with Jahmyr Gibbs, he got drafted by the wrong team. Because Lion is not a finesse team. It's not They're not like, style, read the option, all that. They just, smash around football. So I think Jameer Gibbs should have gone to a place like LA Rams
Mi-
or
Miami.
or Dolphins,
Miami. Oh
Miami.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a bad spot he landed. But oh well, it is what it is.
Well,
Mm.
I think it's a bad spot for fantasy purposes. But
For
for NFL purposes, the team is 3-1.
Yeah.
They beat the Kansas City Chiefs week 1.
yeah, but
Right.
Jameer Gibbs contributed to that.
he did. But I don't think they can unlock him like he should be unlocked.
I agree.
There's such a thing
I
as
agree.
unlocking a guy and making him fit. So I don't think that's the Lions.
Yeah, I mean,
Can
like,
you
I
imagine,
don't know.
can you imagine if Jameer Gibbs was with Miami?
With Miami.
Oh,
Well, he
Lord.
would be in the A chain role, but better.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what he would be.
Yeah, potentially. But let's move on. This is great,
All
guys.
right.
This is great. Slow down. Let's warn our listeners not who to overreact about, whether it be their production was bad, there was a lot of guys who had poor production, or their production was just astronomical. But slow down. Shed, why don't you go first, man?
So my guy for slowdown is Cole Kmet. Yes, he had 7 reception, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he didn't seem dynamic. He wasn't just dominating.
Yeah.
I mean, he's played in 54 games in his career so far, and only 8 times he's gone over 15 fantasy points. The math on that is roughly 15% of the time he gets you 15 points or more. So that's like what, twice a year over 15 points. So coming into the game, he was tight end 17 and 193rd overall player. Yes, after this week, he will be bumped back up. But if your name is not Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Kittle, I feel like you're just part of the pack, right? And Kmet is average to above average tight end. Can he be a good tight end in the future? I don't know, probably. But I feel like this week's was definitely not his norm.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet.
I got to say something on that real quick because there is a trend with Notre Dame tight ends who come into the NFL.
Uh-oh.
Cole Kmet, Mike Gesicki is another Notre Dame guy, and then this year's
Michael
rookie
Mayer.
is Michael Mayer. And so what happens is they are all prototypical tight ends, right? Like 6'5", 250, whatever. They've got the size. They're great blockers. They're fundamentally sound. They run their routes. They have good hands. The problem is these guys typically are not explosive. So they get to the NFL. They've got great fundamentals. They're going to be out there for every offensive play because of their blocking ability, but they're not going to be consistent fantasy producers because they just don't have that athleticism to break off, a yard after the catch, big gain, and they're not going to break a game open. They're more suited to be like that safety valve. So I'm with Shed. I think what we saw from Kmet is it's not going to be repeated again this year. So honestly, if you have him, it might be the week to trade Cole Kmet to whoever has Pat Freiermuth in your league. Trade him for get a wide receiver back, get a running back if someone's desperate because they have Freiermuth. I don't think he's going to repeat what we saw last Sunday. I agree with Shed.
So basically, Notre Dame tight ends are like
they're
Ohio State
overhyped.
quarterbacks, unless their name is CJ Stroud.
They're like Ohio State quarterbacks, right? They have amazing numbers in college, and then it doesn't translate.
Shed, you want to say something?
Yeah, we'll also add on top of that, Justin Fields had a field day, no pun intended, against the Broncos defense, right?
The worst defense in the NFL. The worst.
It took Justin Fields having that kind of day for Cole Kmet to produce. Like, so do we see that happen again like that? I don't think
Not
so.
reliable.
Right.
Not reliable.
Yeah, why you still in my take, Shed?
Olu.
That's a good segue.
Tell us, Olu.
I'm done. I have nothing else to say. Shed said it. No, I'm kidding.
Tell us,
my
man.
slowdown is Justin Fields. Justin Fields had a wonderful day that day. 4 touchdowns, 4 passing touchdowns, and he threw for three. What is it? He threw for about 300 yards. That's an amazing day for him. So he had amazing fantasy numbers. But I would say slow down. Okay, Justin Fields for the first three games, he's completed only 56% of his passes. On Sunday, he completed 80%. That's almost 30% jump in 1 week. I think that's a fluke. That's not a normal projection. And also, they also played against a defense that gave up 70 points the previous week. The defense that almost broke the record for the most points in a game allowed. So I would say slow down with Justin Fields. I don't think that's the norm. That's an aberration, and you know, I don't think they've hit the strides yet. And also, I just saw an article that talks about how their coach is actually plays for his job on
Mm.
Thursday.
Oh,
So
wow.
Ooh.
yeah, they
That
like,
soon,
like
that
he might get
early into
fired.
the season, he's on the hot
Yeah,
seat.
yeah, he might get fired if they lose. So I
Oh,
would say
man. I have to give you guys my slowdown in a second here, but I just have two quick things to say about Justin Fields and the Bears. So, number one, the Bears have not won a game since October of last year. Okay.
Hey,
I
that's
saw
worse than the New
I
York Football
saw this.
Giants.
It is worse. I saw this tweet that said, "Has your sports team won a game since Elon Musk bought Twitter?" And it had like NHL, NBA, and NFL teams all yes. And the Chicago Bears is the only team that is a
Oh,
no. They've not won a game since in a year. They've not won a game in 12 months. So, and then Justin Fields, I saw all these takes from Bears fans that said only Justin Fields could have at the same time the best game of his career and simultaneously cost us the game with his fumble and interception. That in one game, he's the only quarterback who could do that. That's how
Not
twisted
even
this whole
Tony
situation
Romo
is.
did that.
Not even Romo could do that. Gosh. I also have to tell the listeners while we're live right here, I just got a notification on my phone that said Shed Taylor has rejected your trade. So, of course, he has to do that
wait,
live and mess me
can
up.
you tell us what the trade is? We would
No, no,
like to know.
no. I'm trying to get Puka. I'm trying to get Puka and Kyron Williams, and I'm extremely generous in my
So what did
offers.
you offer?
Here, I'm trying to get these guys, but let me give you my slowdown. All right. Whoa, slow down about Alvin Kamara. This man
Ooh,
Oh,
went off
that's
on
a hot
Sunday.
take.
Listen to this. He caught 13 passes.
Lord of mercy.
13 receptions. I do not think for the rest of the season we're going to see this explosive value from Kamara, and here is why. Jamal Williams is going to be coming back from injury. The New Orleans Saints have always tried to implement two running backs. The other thing is they drafted Kendre Miller early. He was a day two
They did.
pick
He's a day
to
2 pick, yeah.
ease him into being their future running back. Kamara has had a lot of injuries the last couple years. He's 28, which for a running back is ancient. So I think slow down after the week he just had. I don't think he's going to be a league winner on any given week the rest of this year. Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller are going to take volume away, and he's not going to be getting even 13 targets a game, let alone 13 receptions, because it's going to be going to Olave, Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, even Jawan Johnson. Jawan Johnson didn't play Sunday. Those targets have to get spread around. Slow down on Kamara.
That's bold. You
That's a
don't think
hot
he's gonna
take.
be you don't
That's
think he'll win you a
spicy.
week at all.
He's not going to
Olu,
be a
weigh
week
in.
winner again.
Yeah, I would definitely love to weigh in. Kamara has always been that dude. Always been that dude. So you see how we talked about how Dave Montgomery and McCaffrey had an amazing game. He's had 6 touchdowns in one game on Christmas Day. Well,
I know, but
so,
how long are we
so
going to be
13,
holding on to that?
13 receptions for Kamara is normal. And also when you think about he's always shared carries with even better backs. Remember Alvin Kamara, he shared
Mark
carries with him
Ingram.
for a while. And he
Yeah,
still and he
Ingram.
still and he still produced. So I mean, we'll see. That's a quite a
I'm
take though.
happy to be wrong, but I don't think he's going to
Yo,
be putting up that kind of volume.
I just looked up those numbers from his 6 touchdown game.
Hmm.
22 carries, 150. I remember the game like yesterday because I remember
I
how
remember the
that
shoes
was
he
a league
wore.
winner.
I remember
Yeah,
the shoes he wore.
100. Yeah, I remember the shoes. That's right. 155 yards, 6 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns
Gosh,
to go along with 3 catches for another 17 yards. Golly, that's a lot of points. That's over 50 fantasy points. That's pushing 60.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Like golly. Yeah, he was a nice. He gave people a nice little Christmas present.
Oh,
My
absolutely. That was an
slowdown.
amazing game.
I love how you guys highlighted a tight end, a quarterback, and a running back. So I'm going to highlight a receiver.
Mm.
Honestly, there are a lot I could highlight.
Okay.
If you had Chris Olave in your lineup, it really stinks for you this last week because the man
Yeah,
got one
yeah.
catch for 4 yards.
Oh my,
I'm not going to talk about him.
it's terrible.
If you had
Why?
Deebo Samuel in your lineup, I got mind control over Deebo. He had no catches, and then he had 3 carries for 6 yards. Yikes. But the guy I'm going to talk about is actually someone who hasn't taken a snap this year, and that's Jameson Williams. Okay? Now, I was a big fan of Jameson Williams coming out of Alabama. Torn ACL, barely. The Lions, he has the draft capital. The Lions drafted him, but they didn't play for 10 games or something like that. And I think the man only had 1 catch.
1 catch in 6
or a
games.
touchdown. And then, so people are excited. He's in an explosive offense. He's shown I could be explosive in the NFL with his 1 catch. Coming in this year, people are like, this is going to be it. Bears got more explosive. And then my man gets in trouble doing FanDuel or DraftKings or something like that and gets suspended.
In the team facility. He was inside the team facility. That was why.
Come on, Jameson. Come on, Jameson. But his suspension was reduced, and I think he can play this week. So
yes, he can.
The draft capital is there. He's in an explosive offense. If he wasn't drafted, people are putting their waiver claims in. But I want to say, slow down. Do not trade for this man. That offense is still going to run through Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is, when it comes to route running and ability to get open and get the ball, he's up there at the top of the list with guys like Keenan Allen and Devontae Adams. He's up there. They have they have these other guys like Raymond and all these other guys, but I'm telling you right now, again, there are guys who are good at football, and then there's fantasy football.
Right.
Jameson Williams is not a good fantasy football play. He is a good NFL player. Huge difference. Again, another example I probably gave this example last time. Darren Sproles, great for the NFL, bad for your fantasy team. Okay? You don't want to play that. So I would say slow down on Jameson Williams. Don't make moves and start trading this guy and that guy because you want to get Jameson Williams on your team because he's back and he's healthy.
Right.
Slow down on Jameson Williams. You guys want to weigh in? Go for it, Will.
Yeah. Okay. I'm full of hot takes today on this episode. I think Jameson Williams' career is going to very closely mirror Martavis Bryant. If we remember Martavis Bryant on the Steelers,
so much talent.
But he was a guy who 1 week he'd have 4 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the next week, 1 catch for 13 yards. And those big explosive games, he'd have maybe 3 or 4 over the course of a season. I actually predict that's what Jameson Williams' career is going to be because the Lions, they have Amon-Ra, but they're funneling targets to Laporta. I do think they'll get Gibbs more involved in the receiving game. I think Williams is going to be a guy who runs fly routes down the sideline. He gets 1 or 2 of those a game. He's not going to be a consistent producer. That's my prediction for this man. I wish him all the success in the NFL. I don't think you want him in your lineup week in and week out.
And there's a lot of guys who made career, I think about, you guys remember Torrey Smith?
Oh, yeah.
Torrey Smith?
Absolutely.
Torrey Smith.
Won a Super Bowl. He was a Super Bowl winner on the Ravens.
Gabriel Davis is a guy like that. You don't want him in your fantasy lineup, but he's good for the Bills. He does what they need him to do. There's lots of guys who have been like that. I don't think Jameson Williams is at the level of, Deshaun Jackson. Now that dude was dangerous, but
no.
Right.
No.
Mike Wallace, I don't know, but that's my take on Jameson Williams. Anyone have anything else they want to say before we move on to the next segment?
I don't think we've seen any receiver like Deshaun with the exact skill set of Deshaun Jackson. I know there've been a lot of comps, but I don't think we have seen one like that yet.
Well,
as far as what
about Tyreek?
Tyreek Hill. Tyreek's much more well-rounded.
He is more well-rounded.
Who? Tyreek is more well-rounded, correct.
Yes.
So I would say Tyreek is a more superior receiver
Oh yes,
than
no doubt
Deshaun
about that.
it's just
Deshaun was like, I got two routes, deep down the middle and deep down the sideline.
that's
That
it. That's
that
it.
was,
And I
that
do that.
was
And
it.
I do those very well.
Oh, bro, but he was gonna burn you. And like the thing about it that was so good is you knew what he was going to do,
Yeah,
and
and
he
he will
still
do it.
burnt you.
He's
He still
And
does.
then
still, yeah.
he'd like giddy all the way to the end zone, then turn around and fall back into the end zone. You know, he just made you just
The,
embarrassed everybody.
the closest thing is Brandon Cooks, except I've not seen Brandon Cooks really taking a punt and take it as an
No,
out.
No,
no, I
and
don't think
Cooks
no,
is a
not Brandon
better route
Cooks.
runner. He's a better route
Not
runner
Brandon
Yeah,
than
Cooks.
yeah.
Deshaun. No, Deshaun he was rare. He was rare like that, just pure speed, straight line speed, and special teams. He was an asset too. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard to
he was
find a
nasty.
comparison. That's a good point.
Let's move on, guys. Matt, let's go ahead. Looking ahead at week 5, matchups to exploit. These are guys who are on your roster who you're wondering, do I put this guy in the flex, or is this the last receiver I put in my lineup, or you're thinking, do I play this guy or that guy? We're gonna tell you to exploit these matchups this week. Shed, start us off.
So Olu will like this, and will dislike this. So
Mm.
Buffalo versus Trevor Lawrence. Buffalo is
In
going to
London,
explode in London. That's fine. Buffalo is going to exploit Trevor Lawrence. So after what I saw Buffalo do against that Miami offense, that same offense that put up 70 the week before, this is not a week for you to start Trevor Lawrence. At least be very, very cautious, right? And it's twofold, right? Because Buffalo, you have a great defense versus a mediocre offense. Buffalo defense is first in interceptions, fifth in pass yards allowed, and tied for the most in sacks. Jacksonville offense, their pass offense, on the other hand, middle of the pack and bottom third when it comes to explosive plays of 20 and 40 yards. So what's my point? Jacksonville offense is meh. They're not exciting, not explosive. They don't put up points in bunches. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not good either. But the Bills defense is elite, and I see this being a lopsided game. Will, I know you have something to say.
Will said he has
all
his
right, all right.
retirement
Here is
on Trevor Lawrence
that's right.
stock.
My home mortgage. Here's my rebuttal to that. Okay, y'all stick with me for like 20 seconds. This has two layers to it. I think what we saw between the Bills and the Dolphins on Sunday was an aberration for the Dolphins offense. In the same way that they're not going to put up 70 points again, they're also not going to be held to 20 points again. They came off of that insane week. It was an emotional, almost record-breaking week. I think they just didn't have the steam to do it again against the Bills. The other thing is the Bills have lost Tre'Davious White for the season.
Ooh.
And so you think about covering Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, if he plays, if he's healthy, Evan Ingram, Etienne even has receiving chops. Can they really cover all these guys? Plus, the Jaguars are staying in London. They've had 2 games in a row. They don't have to travel. There's no jet lag. The Bills are traveling. They're jet lagged. They're missing their best defensive player. I am extremely biased. I need Trevor Lawrence to do something. But that's my rebuttal of how the Jaguars may be able to do some damage against that defense.
Calvin Ridley is another guy who needs to get off
Oh my,
FanDuel and DraftKings. So
yes.
Calvin, if you're listening to if you're listening to
Don't
this
do
podcast,
it.
Calvin, I hope we help your fantasy team.
Don't do it, Calvin, please.
Dang it, Calvin. All right, go for it, Olu.
What I would say to what Will said is, if you watch the game, the Dolphins in the first 3 series were on point. They looked like they would go point for point. They were on point. I was like, wow, this is clearly the best 2 offense in the league. And then they begin to lose steam. The Dolphins defense begin to grow and get bigger, and they stifle them. And Von Miller might be joining them in London.
Oh, please
Oh,
no.
So
Buffalo, yeah.
Please no.
So I don't think it's because the Dolphins couldn't muster up steam. They did. It was incredible. But all of a sudden they just slowed them down, and they just couldn't catch up anymore. So yeah, that's just to bust your
Yeah.
bubble.
No, that's a good segue. Olu, why don't you go to your matchup to exploit?
Okay, my matchup to exploit is not to beat a dead horse.
Oh
Is
boy.
Let's see what we have here. Where are you, buddy? Hmm. One
You're
second,
wishing
guys.
evil on this man 2 weeks in a row. I see. You want him. You want this man to have 2 bad weeks, Mister Chris Olave.
Yeah, no, I want him to have a great week. Oh wait, you said it's
Oh,
matchup
you
to
want him
exploit.
to have a great week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
matchup to exploit.
yeah, it's matchup to exploit. So I would say
Eeh,
Kisalari had a bad week, but
he
do
did.
not fret. He's
You
gonna
want him to
have a great.
bounce back. My bad. You want him to bounce back this week.
No, he will bounce back
He
because
Oh,
will.
he's
prophecy.
gonna play, he's gonna play against the New England Patriots defense, which is actually a really, really good defense. However, they lost their best player, Matt Judon. He's a
That's
great
right.
pass rusher. He's their best player in the whole team. They lost them. They also lost their promising rookie
Oh yeah,
cornerback.
Gonzalez.
Yeah,
They lost
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez and they lost Matt Judon. Yes, they are getting some reinforcement in Jack Jones. However, I do feel like that would give Derek Carr time to throw. God forbid they get Jameis, then they're really in trouble. So I feel like Chris Olave has been average. He in the first game this year he went for 112 yards. The second game 86 yards. The third game 104 yards, and then the fourth game he went 4 yards, which is an aberration. And they were playing a division rival with bad blood.
Mm.
So and Todd Bowles. So I do feel like the depleted secondary of the Patriots will make for a big game for Chris Olave. So we want to we're going to see him have a big bounce back game. Chris Olave is my matchup to exploit.
Nice. Like it. I like it, man. That's a great take.
I'll be
Ye-
quick on mine. All right, here the quarterback. If you have him on your roster that you want to put in your lineup this week, is Mister Jordan Love. The man of love. You
Give
want
me some
him.
love.
Give me some love this week. You want him in your lineup. The Packers are playing at the Las Vegas Raiders. Guys, the Raiders defense is bad. They have one good player, Max Crosby. They move him all across the lineup trying to rush the passer. They've given up 10 total touchdowns to quarterbacks through the first 4 weeks of the season, including Kenny Pickett, who is not a
Ooh.
formidable name as an offensive firepower. They've given up 10 touchdowns to quarterbacks. Plus, you've got finally Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are going to be fully healthy. Remember, the Packers played on Thursday night last week, so they have 10 days to rest. They're finally going to have all of their skill players healthy. Luke Musgrave is in concussion protocol. He's the one that might be missing, but Jordan Love is going to go off this week. Make sure you have him in your lineup. I would put him over most quarterbacks unless it's
Oh.
Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. I would start him over Trevor Lawrence, definitely over Burrow. No question there. And I think you just want him. He's going to go off this week. The Raiders, they give quarterbacks whatever they're looking for week after week.
Last time I said on this podcast, this is the quarterback. He's above all these other guys. I would only start maybe one or two guys over him. I said that about Kirk Cousins last week, and then the guy laid an egg. So I hope
I know.
Jordan Love
That's
can't let us down, man.
No, this can't be like the Madden curse. We are not going to have the 4 wide curse on these
What is
men.
love? Yeah, we could probably sing so many different songs when we have a take about Jordan Love. Like,
Mm,
all you need is love, baby. Oh,
love and happiness.
oh yeah.
Love and happiness.
Happiness. Love
Matt, save
is.
us. Save us from this, please.
My matchup to exploit, this is a very interesting one. The top 10 receivers in fantasy football. This won't surprise you, but if I were to name them, I would say Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown. You're like, duh, Matt, duh. Guess who's not in the top 10? Amon-Ra St. Brown is number 11. Guess who's
Yes.
number 10? The number 10 wide receiver in fantasy football. Say it with me, Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen. Yep. Yeah.
Thielen is a top 10 receiver in fantasy football. The guy is, he's the
Gosh.
number 10 receiver in fantasy football. And he's playing against Detroit. In Detroit this upcoming weekend. Listen, say what you want to say about Adam Thielen, but the man, they don't really have many other options and many other choices Again, in fantasy football, you want to chase volume.
Mm,
Adam Thielen, the last 3 weeks, has had 9 targets, 14 targets, and 8 targets. He's caught 7 balls, 11 balls, and 7 balls. Like, Thielen had 145 yards 2 weeks ago.
my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like, who is
How,
this?
how and why? We thought this man was in the retirement home.
Dude,
How
he
is
has
he
been
doing this?
reborn. Yeah, Adam Thielen. Wow.
Makes no
If you
sense.
have him on your roster, you've probably been like silently excited about this, but not wanting to say it out loud because you don't want to jinx it. But all I'm saying now is make sure, by all means necessary, he is in your lineup. Adam Thielen, get him in the lineup. Shed, you want to say something?
Yeah, so last week as we were doing our Whoa Slow Down, I thought about putting Thielen there because I was like, he's older. He had one game, but I looked at his stats and kind of looked at what he's done. I'm like, there's something behind this. And I think that now they have Bryce Young throwing to him, and some good quarterback play. And it's interesting, right? Because everything's going to him versus someone like the younger guy, the Terrence Marshall or the Jonathan Mingo, right? So that's interesting. But he's a seasoned veteran. He knows how to teach those guys. So, but it is surprising for him to be in the top 10. The question is, can he remain here all season long?
He can. I mean, Terrace Marshall is not fantasy relevant. Jonathan Mingo,
Old guy.
it doesn't look like he's, I don't know, man. But Thielen's doing something. Will, weigh in.
No, I think Thielen he's going to keep doing it because Bryce Young, this is what we see with rookie quarterbacks who are skittish. Okay, if I can call Bryce Young skittish right now, they just look to one guy that has been reliable, and that's what Thielen is. He's that safety valve, so I think he is going to continue to produce as until Bryce Young learns how to go through his reads and get to other options.
Yeah, to say that Bryce Young is skittish is not a surprise because the man is like
He's
five
tiny.
foot
He's tiny.
nine. Yeah,
And his
Yeah.
he is
offensive
built like your.
line is terrible. Terrible offensive line.
Yeah, I
But
know
but
about. I've seen a lot of bad O lines as a Giants fan.
all right, let's move on.
Anyways, what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go ahead, matchups to avoid. Please don't start this player. We're gonna try to go through these a little bit quicker to save some time. We hope our banter has been entertaining and helpful. But matchups to avoid, Shed, help our listeners out, man.
Okay, matchup to avoid here. 49ers defense against Dak Prescott. Oh my goodness. Against the 49ers D, run, hide, run, Dak Prescott. Like my man Antoine Dobson said. Y'all remember him, right? Hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your
Hide your
kids,
wife.
hide your kids. Hide Dak Prescott. Don't let that man throw the ball. The 49ers defense is tough, and they play the Cowboys tough every single time.
It's
19-12
true.
last year in the divisional round. Dak threw 2 costly interceptions. The defense is top 4 in a rush defense, only allowing 2 touchdowns. What that means is that they're going to stop the Cowboys' run, and they're going to force Dak to throw the ball. And you know what happens when he throws the ball? Dak creates turnovers and mistakes. This will be a low-scoring game, and I don't expect much from Dak Prescott from this game.
Nah. Hide your kids. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. No, my internet. What is it called? Network is called Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wi-Fi. Olu, matchup to avoid.
Okay, so
Enlighten our listeners.
if I'm gonna say this, I might as well just say it with my chest. Okay, matchup to avoid is Brandon Ayuk. I'm as crazy as that sounds. I know it sounds crazy, but I just gotta go for it. Go big or go home. Okay, so Brandon Ayuk is going against the So Brandon Ayuk is gone. He's had a really great season so far, but when they played the LA Rams, he had only 50% reception that day with 43 yards. Not a big day for him. So I feel like he might experience something like that against the Cowboys. I'm sorry, yeah, against the Cowboys. He's probably going to go against Stephon Gilmore, the great one. And Stephon Gilmore in the last 4 games, he's been targeted 20 times, 20 targets against him. It only 9 has been completed, just for 167 yards. He's giving up only 167 yards, and 66 of those yards came from yards after the catch. So he's been extremely efficient because he's a shutdown corner. So I feel like going against Brandon Ayuk is going to be overmatched in that game. And then if you have a front like Dallas has, that would really disrupt Brock Purdy's timing. Brock Purdy hasn't faced a front like that. Granted, he has an amazing O line. He does. But they're gonna move Mike, Micah Parsons all over. They're not just gonna put him next to what's his name?
Trent Williams.
Trent
Yeah.
Williams. They're gonna move him around. But you will go one on one with the great one. Okay? So I don't see him catching 100% of his receptions, which is what he had in two of his last 3 games. I mean, last 4 games. So yeah, that's my take.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Brandon Ayuk,
So-
a good play. It's
I
been a
know.
good play.
So get Ayuk out of the lineup. All right, I'm going to be real quick on this one.
Okay,
We already
I
gave
will
this
say
man a
this.
lot. Oh, go ahead.
Crazy as that sounds, get a lead idea. I like the lineup. However, that's how I see it.
Okay, it's fair. I'll be quick on this one. We gave this guy a lot of run already. Do not have Jahmyr Gibbs in your lineup this week. I'm sorry if you drafted him in the first 5-6 rounds thinking he was going to take off. They're playing Carolina, which might tempt you. It might tempt you to slip him in there because the Panthers are bad and you're thinking, oh, Lions are going to milk the clock. Not with Gibbs. They're going to milk the clock with David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Do not even put Gibbs in your flex spot. Don't do it. Do not play him as long as Montgomery is getting all this volume, as long as Montgomery's healthy. This is not the time to start him. You will continue to be disappointed.
Not even in the flex?
Not even in the flex. You have better options, trust me.
So
Put
it
a
sounds like
fourth
you're-
receiver. Put your fourth receiver in the flex over Gibbs. No doubt about it.
So basically, it sounds like you're saying in the rookie draft, if you had drafted Tank Dell over Gibbs, you'd
Oh
have been
my
in a better
gosh.
spot.
Tank Dell did nothing on Sunday, so this
Flat-
might be the week to cool off a little
It
on the
happened.
Tank takes.
It happens to the best of them.
We'll
If I
see
would've
if he's the
played-
best.
I played Tank Dell in a DFS matchup. If I would have played Nico Collins, golly, that
Oh
would have
my
been nice.
gosh.
Yeah. Anyways, we didn't even talk about Nico. Did you see what he did? But
Oh my
my
God.
matchup to avoid, I'll also keep it easy. Najee Harris. Look, if you drafted him,
Oh,
you
man.
know. You
What a
already
matchup.
know.
Terrible.
You've been starting him begrudgingly. You don't want to. I think his time is up, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point of the season, Najee Harris has taken 124 snaps. Jalen Warren, 105 snaps. One guy was a first-round pick. The other guy undrafted.
Right.
And he's only had 52% of the snaps. I mean, his efficiency is terrible. Pittsburgh is terrible.
Yeah.
And they're playing against Baltimore. That game is always gritty.
Always.
Baltimore is
Yes.
clearly better.
Physical.
It's a physical game. Baltimore is clearly better. I think Najee Harris, I look, you got to bench the guy at this point.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to weigh in at all?
I got a quick. This is my third hot take of the night, but here it is. Najee Harris
You're on a
and
roll.
Jalen Warren. We have seen this movie before in the form of Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. Melvin Gordon was a top draft pick with so much hype coming out of college. He was going to be the next LaDainian Tomlinson for the Chargers. They really believed that. And then here you have Austin Eckler, undrafted, makes a name for himself in training camp, preseason, slowly starts eating in, and then becomes the Austin Eckler that we now know and love. I see the exact same thing playing out with Najee and Jalen Warren. If you can trade Najee now for anything, do it. Do it. If you had the fortune of drafting Jalen Warren as a handcuff, hold him and get rid of Najee. It's depressing how quickly he fell off after an elite rookie season. He looks like he is running with cement blocks around his feet. I'm going to stop myself.
Will
That's
you
the
take
last
your
thing.
own advice? Will you take your own advice and
I've
sell
tried.
Najee?
You know how many times I've tried to trade him away? Nobody wants this poor man. It's rough out there, people. It is rough.
Shed, weigh in, man. What are you gonna say?
So quickly, I'll say this: is I told you guys from the start of the season in our very first episode, I said Najee is not who he is.
Stay
Jalen Warren
away.
has been cutting into his time. Najee
Yeah.
only had one game over 100 yards rushing last year. So I saw this coming. This is not a surprise to me. So I am sad to see that the top producing guy has fallen this far. But if you can't produce, you can't play.
Yeah, and I hate the question that so many people throw around in these fantasy football forums when they have a guy like Najee, but they're looking at the waiver wire and they want to pick up somebody, so they say, should I drop Najee? The answer is no. You don't drop Najee. What you do
Yeah.
is you put him in a package to trade. Like, you throw him as an extra piece in some sort of package when you're trying to move a guy, you're trying to acquire somebody from somebody, and you say, okay, well, I'll
Right.
throw in Najee Harris as well. Najee Harris is a good supplemental piece because maybe you find out later down in the season, hey, you could throw him in a bye week in a few weeks. But I mean, I don't think you drop the man. You know, it's
No,
just
you can't
frustrating to be an
drop
owner of
him.
Najee.
It
It's
is.
frustrating. But we got to move on. Guys. Biggest draft disappointment. Okay, there's got to be someone you
Ah,
drafted or was drafted, maybe in like the top 3, 4, 5 rounds, who to this point in time has just been a bust. Shed, start us off. These are
I
gonna
know.
hurt.
Yes, I know we alluded to this initially at first. I think Will had kind of mentioned this, but I'm looking at Kyle
mm,
Pitts. He's a 5th or 6th round draft pick. He was supposed to be a top 6 fantasy tight end, but he hasn't done
terrible.
much so far. In 4 games, he's averaging 3 receptions, 30 yards a game, and 0 touchdowns this year so far. Zero. He's currently tied at number 28, and in like half PPR league, he drops
Gosh.
down to tight end 31. And
Ow.
here's the thing too is that he's not even the best tight end on his own team. That goes to I know you guys mentioned earlier Jonnu Smith.
Right.
Yes, Riddler is a liability, but if you can't even be the best tight end on your own team, that's alarming. You know, and I feel like he's had an okay career, but from all the hype, the bluster, and what he's supposed to be, it feels like he's been a letdown.
I
So
just have to quickly interject. Shed, you just said Riddler. That was a Freudian slip.
The Riddler.
The Riddler, because Desmond Ritter, it is a puzzle. Why they continue to start this man? Please, if you own Drake London or Kyle Pitts, you're like me. You are begging. Put Taylor Heineke in there. This man actually can throw the ball and then draft your quarterback next year. It is a mystery. Yes, it is a riddle. Why they continue with Ritter? That was not a mistake the way you said that. That was right on point.
Shout out Jonnu Smith. Me and Jonnu had the same barber when he was here in New England. Shout out to my man Jeff Fonseca.
We're gonna tag him.
Prince of Mass. Look him up on Instagram. Anyways, Olu, what are you gonna say, man? Weigh in quickly on Kyle Pitts.
I'm just gonna say I never really bought the hype about Kyle Pitts from day one since he got drafted in the first round.
What?
This is
That never
revisionist
made sense to
history.
me. That never made sense to me. No, I've always said this, right, Shed? I've always said this about Kyle Pitts.
you've said it, but you said it like after the fact. I didn't hear you say it during the time. Well, you weren't part of the
He
league
had
at the time. So.
1,000
Right,
yards
all
as a
about this,
rookie.
I've always said it. Number one, you drafted what was he drafted in? Like fourth position?
Fourth overall.
Okay, guys, think about this. You drafted tight end fourth overall. That makes no sense. That's number one. And number two, if New England or what do you call it? Kansas City's drafted in fourth overall. All right, we get it. Atlanta Falcons drafted in fourth overall. That makes no sense, guys. No sense. And then last year, you have the coach went to get one of his most trusted tight end he had when he was in Tennessee. When Jonas Smith was in Tennessee, he had a great year with Arthur Smith. He
Right.
went and got him because he didn't believe in Kyle Pitts. So that's what I was saying about Kyle Pitts. I didn't get
I
it.
don't know if it's that they don't believe in Kyle Pitts. The guy's talent.
Bro,
He's talented.
you don't have
Yeah.
Kelsey and go out of your way to get Gronk or somebody else. He went to get his favorite tight end from Tennessee. He went out of his way to get him back. So if I seen that coming into this year, I probably wouldn't have drafted Kyle Pitts high anyway. All right, that's that.
I'm going
Sorry.
to say
Yeah.
if you have Pitts in Dynasty, hold him. Just hold him.
Hold
You're
him.
going to have a better
Yeah.
quarterback next year, and this is not the time to trade him for like a third round, future pick. Just hold him. He'll come around.
Let's not forget it. Tight ends usually don't break out until their third or fourth year. Let's not forget that fact. So we've been holding on to Pitts. We've been saying every year, this is gonna be his year. This is gonna be his year. This is gonna be his year. But slow down. The tight ends don't come in super explosive all the time. TJ Hawkinson just started to break out last year. Like,
Again, TJ Hawkinson had to leave Detroit for him to break out. In order for Kyle Pitts to break out, he has to leave Atlanta.
Sometimes you
He
gotta
was-
leave. You gotta leave your home to find yourself.
He has to leave
gotta
Atlanta.
leave the Riddler.
Olu? Who's your guy though? You're just piling on Kyle Pitts. Who's your disappointment?
My guy is Josh Jacobs, because I was very big on Josh Jacobs coming into this year. He led the league in rushing last year with 1,600 yards plus. So this year he has been nothing but disappointing this year. His first game 48 yards, no touchdown. Second game -2 yards in 9 attempts. He has -2 yards. So basically, in the second week, I had more rushing yards than he did, essentially, sitting from my couch. Okay. The third game, he has 62 yards, fourth and 58 yards, and finally 1 touchdown. He's averaging 2.7 yards per carry this 4 seasons. So it's been very disappointing, especially for people who picked him with a premium draft pick. So he's one guy that I'm like, man. And as we see from history of quarterbacks, whenever they hold out for a contract, which you got to do what you got to do, bro.
I get yours, man.
You
Right.
have to. However, it does affect them when they do come back. So even Jonathan Taylor coming back, I'm scared it might affect them, but I hope not.
I'll go real quick on this one.
Say that.
Oh yeah, I'll go quick on this one, Matt. We already made the case for this. My biggest disappointment of the year so far is Najee Harris. I think he and Jacobs are the two most disappointing running backs because of where you would have had to draft them, probably in the first 2 rounds or early third round at the latest. It's depressing because you can't do anything. You can't drop them. No one wants them in a trade. You just got to keep putting them in there because you don't have any other running back. You don't have any other running backs to put in if you took them early. So Najee's the other guy.
You just stuck with the man. My guy, we could talk about so many people on the Bengals offense. We could talk about
offense.
Burrow, but it's like, is there a calf injury? We could talk about T. Higgins. But guys, Jamar Chase, man, I mean.
Hurts. It hurts.
He was a top 3 fantasy pick in almost every format. Some people argued he should be number 1. And Jamar Chase, the man who said, I'm open. I'm always open. I'm always open. He's not open on your fantasy rosters, I'll tell you that. Like, the guy's he's a good player. He's a good player. And
he's elite.
We've got to think it's going to turn around, but man, has he been disappointing. If you drafted him top 3 overall, he has not panned out, man. I mean, he's gone over 100 yards once, which for most players, that's good. Once out of 4 games. But for someone you drafted in the top 3 picks, I think Justin Jefferson's gone over 100 yards every game. Christian McCaffrey's definitely gone over 100 yards and has scored. Jamar Chase hasn't scored a touchdown. He's had 1 good game out of 4. That's not good enough if you drafted him. Am I telling you to sell him? No. I would not sell Jamar Chase. I would not sell him. I'm just saying he's been a disappointment. A big disappointment up to this point.
And to be fair, I don't know if that's really on him versus Joe Burrow. I think the issue is Joe Burrow versus Chase. But from a fantasy perspective, he has let you down because you expected more from him.
The draft capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So guys, last segment. We're going to try to do this one. We're going to have fun with it though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it. Let's do it quick because we got to have fun. Single game mock. This is our final segment that we've been doing now. And what we do is we take we do a 2-round single game mock. We mock players from the Thursday night football game. We do not draft quarterbacks, only running backs, receivers, and tight ends. This week's game, it's going to be an exciting one. The Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders.
Oh, man.
And each week, the
Wow.
4-wide fantasy footballers, we rotate our draft order. And of course, I get to go first, but just to recap, last week, Shed scored 27.6 points. Olu scored a whopping 12.9 points. Will scored 21.4, and I came up in last yet again.
Again.
But 2 weeks ago, I got 5 points. This time I got 10.7, so I'm doing better. But Shed is winning. He is in first place this season. He has 79.3. Will has 77.8.
Let's go.
Olu has 64.9. And yours truly has 56.5. But yet again, I'll say it was not my fault because Luke Musgrave left after like 5 plays. That didn't help me. But anyways, that's football. Next man up. But we only have 2 players on our rosters. So anyways, today, our draft order, I'll be going first, followed by Shed, then Olu, then Will, and then we'll snake, and we'll come back around the other way. So
All right.
with that said, let's go ahead and get started. Again, we're mocking the Thursday night game, Chicago versus the Washington Commanders, 2 elite offenses. So I will start all of this out.
Who's it going to be? There's no obvious choice here, Matt. Anyone you say is a risk.
Yeah.
And
This is
you know what's
rough.
wild?
This is a
You know
rough
what's
game.
wild is I try to take into account like game script, like which team's gonna fall behind and then how you're gonna get all your garbage points, right? Garbage catches,
Yeah. I have an answer. The entire game is garbage time.
It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be a bad game. So what I'm gonna do though is, why not? Let's just go Terry McLaurin. Let's just take Terry McLaurin first. Okay, I'm
That's
just
a
gonna
good
do
pick.
that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my
I hope
pick.
so.
Yeah, no,
I hope so. I'm just gonna start with Terry McLaurin and the Ohio State product. I think the Commanders' offense, I think, is better than Chicago's offense, and I think he's still their top pass catcher, even though Jahan Dotson is. I thought he was gonna be better this year as far as fantasy,
I
but
know.
I'm
I'm
take
still
McLaurin
waiting.
first. Shed, it's on you, man.
Yeah, so that was be my pick, but I'm gonna go with my man Brian Robinson. I feel like he's the do-it-all guy. Even if he's not doing stuff on the ground, he can get you some receptions and yards that way. I'm not a fan of anybody on offense on the Bears, so
Oof.
I'm going Brian Robinson number 2.
Go DJ. That's my DJ. You didn't want? Okay.
Nah.
Okay, I'll go. So I don't think I have much choice left. The natural order of things should be.
Wait, you said I don't have much choices left. It's only
No,
the third
no.
After two
No,
players,
it's
it's
not.
over.
We haven't even
That's
drafted
how
anyone
bad.
from
That's
Chicago.
how bad it is.
You said what? I'm
It's
not having
so-
what?
Olu, it is that bad. It's that bad. 2 players are gone, and you don't know who's left.
Yeah, I don't have much choice left, so I'm just gonna go with DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, this
Oh,
stings.
man.
I'm in last place, and I would hope that for the first overall pick, I'd get a guy like Justin Jefferson or Christian McCaffrey. No, we're choosing between Chicago and Washington when I pick first.
Okay. Well, I'm picking at the turn here. So my only hope is just to go for pure upside. With the 4th overall pick, I will take Jahan Dotson. The Bears' defense is awful. Awful. So I'm hoping he can get some volume. And he did score a late game touchdown last week, so maybe he can sneak one of those again. And then I'm going to go with Khalil Herbert. The Bears showed last week that they actually trust him. He got a lot of volume. Rashawn Johnson is obviously going to be he's the future. But for Thursday night, I think Herbert gets some passes out of the backfield. He'll have some decent fantasy value for PPR. So he's the 5th overall pick for me, Khalil Herbert. It's rough out here, guys. It's desperate.
It
It's
is.
about to get worse.
I'll go with Cole Kermit,
Okay. Oh,
tight end for the Bears.
you didn't listen to a word that Shed said earlier. huh?
right. Whoa, slow down.
Like I said, there's zero slim pickings, zero choices here.
Gosh, this is so bad.
So I'm gonna go for a surprise guy here who's kind of up and down. He gets his his receptions, his targets here and there.
Don't take my guy.
Curtis Samuel. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Curtis Samuel has an opportunity to get some receptions and yards here, right? Because I feel like they kind of throw the ball around, but I feel like he's a good pick at this turn here.
I just looked up Darnell Mooney's numbers.
It's bad.
He
It's
started
Darnell
Mooney.
the first game for me in one of my leagues. He got me 0 points, man. 0 points. So,
Y'all listen. You know what? As bad as this is, I'm actually going to take a player that I actually really liked coming into the season, and that's Roschon Johnson.
Okay.
I am taking a backup running back from the Chicago Bears. I liked Roschon Johnson as a prospect coming into the league, and Khalil Herbert is not an every down back.
No.
Chicago knows he's not an every down back. But Roschon Johnson, behind Bijan Robinson, he just didn't get the opportunities. But the guy's a good running back, and maybe on prime time, maybe he gets some carries. Here's to hoping Roschon Johnson gets me out of this hole. So anyways, our little recap, Four Wide Fantasy Football Podcast Draft. I am sitting with Terry McLaurin and Roschon Johnson. Shed has Brian Robinson and Curtis Samuel. Olu has an incredible team, DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. And Will has Jahan Dotson and Khalil Herbert. This is the second time you got a guy named Khalil.
How did Olu get two Bears offensive players? Olu. That was
Bears
bad.
pass catchers.
Oh
my gosh.
After he trashed Justin Fields?
If one of us can get to 15 points from this, they're gonna win. They're gonna win this week with 15 points.
So wait. Olu trashed Justin Fields and whoa, slow down. And then he takes DJ Moore and Cole Kmet.
Yes, I have zero choice in the matter.
That's true. This is a rough matchup. This game needs to be flexed to Friday morning at 2 a.m.
You will probably still outscore me the week I took two New York Giants for the Thursday night game. I scored 5 total points.
Oh my gosh.
You'll probably outscore me. That's for certain. But anyways, guys, with that said, that is your podcast for the week. Thank you for coming in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. As always, your host, Matt, Shed, Will, and Olu. We thank you for sharing this moment with us. Have a great week. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace.